senior fellow, whatever that means, for the Centre for Migration Control. I loved him last time because he had long hair. Now he's got no hair. What's happened to his hair? Have you had your hair cut off, Tom Jones?
I've been swimming. It's nice weather, so I thought I might as well.
You've been swimming, man?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you just do so? Can you just do me? This is rubbish, but it's the only way I get through the afternoon. Can you just go, it's not unusual? Can you just sing it? Just...
Not unusual.
There you are. Tom Jones on Talk. Good man. Nice shirt, by the way. I've got 14 down. What's 11 across? Right, listen. Let's crack on. I find myself on a daily basis trying not to implode on national radio and television. This French migrant farce today, I mean, I've sat here for 3 years and wondered quite why the greatest brains in politics across the world can't come up with an answer, but apparently I get told repeatedly that people don't want to sort this migrant problem out. We give the French 500 million, apparently, which is to encourage them not to put people in boats. And today, what can only be described as the biggest farce I think I've ever seen. There'll probably be pictures on screen as Tom and I are talking about this. They're spending our money on what can only be described as two of the most pathetic road barriers in the history of the world. Imagine Lincolnshire, my friends, and imagine two concrete posts with a barrier in the middle of the field. You could drive round on the left, you could drive round on the right, you could fly over the top. To make it even more embarrassing, the barriers are open all day, and Lee Anderson from Reform said overnight they only close them at night, so basically free entry to the UK from dawn to dusk. Because nobody in the British government worked out, be very careful, get ready with your button through there, Ryan, that the French are taking the pee out of us, because they are.
Don't you think, Jeremy, that as a metaphor for Britain's immigration system, a completely open barrier that people can just drive round that is only closed half of the time, don't you think is a metaphor for our immigration system?
By a mile. By a mile. I mean, it just sums up. And I find, you know, I have this thing in my head still, probably the way I was brought up. But we were supposed to be the leaders of... No, I'm not talking about liberalism. We were the leaders of the free... We did everything. We made the best things. We had the best laws. We had democracy and free speech. We're paying £500 million to the French. There's two poxy barriers that aren't going to stop anything. And the world is laughing. And we don't seem bothered. Well, we are, but seemingly politicians aren't.
It's crazy. Basically, UK taxpayers are funding a French border regime that still allows thousands of people to launch boats, increasingly large boats, actually, that are now made in backstreets in Turkey. There's a whole industry in Istanbul supplying these boats now. We are subsidising dysfunction because the French... To be fair to them, the French have no strategic interest in stopping migrants coming to this country.
But they've got a strategic interest in taking our money, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't be defending the French to me. Don't take the 500 million quid. You're taking the mickey out of my government. And there's people... Well, my government's ridiculous. And there's people... And this is it, I think, Tom. It's because people in this country are struggling that I think it becomes even more galling, if I'm honest. Galling. Do you see what I did there?
Yeah, but fundamentally what we've done is completely outsourced our border security to France. But no sovereign nation should rely on another country to police its borders. No. You know, we have real problems here, slow removals, legal loopholes, too generous systems, weak deterrence, and no amount of money sent to France is going to fix that.
Ben Habib was talking earlier about how, and I think this would be right, you might disagree, that if a boat entered British waters armed with soldiers or people with guns, it would be intercepted, raided, and those people would either be arrested or their weapons would be removed and they would be deported. Let me ask the question that will send the lefties into meltdown. Why can't our border forces, our Navy or our security services say to people on boats, this isn't right, we're squeezed here, I'm afraid we can't do anything, you're going to have to go back. Why can't we escort people back to where they came from? Why is it so difficult for the Liberals to understand that the reason these people don't want to stay in France is because they get a tent, and here they get a 4-star hotel, a GP, a mobile phone, probably a car with money on it, and that's what they... Oh, and an interpreter, let's throw that in as well. I don't understand how politicians don't, Tom, suss that out in their own brains.
It's absolutely, absolutely unbelievable. The truth is, we've already looked at using the Royal Navy, and the Royal Navy have actually refused to defend the border. And I think from their perspective, it's quite understandable. If you look at what's happened with the army in Northern Ireland, and with the amount of lawfare from left-wing NGOs that's going on now, we would be asking our soldiers basically to sign up for future court cases. And I don't think it's actually fair that we should put our servicemen in that position.
What's the answer then? Because, as you're right, we've got a government that would be steadfastly behind these left-wing human rights lawyers who are charging, oh yes, the British taxpayer millions of pounds a year to allow people who shouldn't be in this country to come into this country.
Well, I'm afraid the answer is the really simple thing. And it feels like every time I come on this show, I talk about the same thing, which is let's fix the incentives that are bringing people over here in huge numbers. We are the absolute weakest link now in Europe on mass migration. We could change that tomorrow if we had the political will. The British people have the political will, but our elites just cannot get it into their head.
Why didn't this? See, this I remember now because I'm getting 60. I forget. I now remember why I liked you so much. You just said the will of the British people is pretty obvious, and yet our political elite aren't listening. The political elite work for the people, and the people are pretty nailed on with what they think. So, where's the grey area there?
I don't think there is a grey area, and I think you're increasingly seeing. Since mass migration started in the early 90s, the British people have never voted for a government that has promised to increase migration. No. And you can see that as migration gets higher and higher and higher, the British people's fuse, their willingness to give people time to sort this problem is getting shorter and shorter and shorter as the numbers get higher and higher and higher. And I fundamentally think that our the elites' commitment to mass migration is basically creating a political system that is so unstable. Within 10 to 15 years, it will be very difficult to win a second term unless things change very drastically with migration.
Do you believe that the Labour Party is keen on migration to fill jobs, or because people that will be allowed in during their tenure will then vote for the Labour Party in 4 years' time?
Can't it be two things? I believe that for a long time, I've had this idea of, I've written about this called human quantitative easing. Basically, we've used migration as a way to bring in patterns of global workforces into the country, basically as a way to debase native wages.
Yeah.
And I think for the last probably 14 years, that's why the Conservatives ramped up immigration, because it's the best thing for businesses. You don't have to worry about, difficult decisions about, cutting taxes to incentivize capital investment when you can just give them a cheaper workforce. I think Labour are still clinging to that, but obviously there is a presumption that people coming in, once they're given citizenship, will vote Labour. And I think you are seeing moves in that. One of the very first announcements when Labour came in was that they were looking at changing paths to citizenship to make it easy. And I do think there is an element of block voting in that.
Listen, I could talk to you forever. Was it a swim outdoors or indoors?
It was indoors, I'm afraid.
Yes, soft git. Really good to have you on, though. Tom Jones, not unusual to have him on. You see what I did there?